So let's talk about Red Hill for a second. Red Hill is the movie that we'll be discussing tonight with Ryan Kwanten and the writer-director Patrick Hughes. It is Mr. Hughes' first feature film, and it's kind of a new, like a modern-day Australian outback Western. And they make very interesting Westerns in Australia.
Yes, they do.
I mean, the Australian landscape is just ideal for the Western genre, the desolation, and this one's really good. It's about a new police officer that enters this small Australian town. It's his first day on the job, the same day that a serial killer, the most savage ever known in the area, escapes from prison and seeks vengeance against the department and the sheriff that put him away. And so it has a very classic Western structure to it, but it goes in places that you don't expect. And, you know, we've seen everything.
Right.
We've seen every cliche in the book. So when I say that the movie takes a surprising turn, I really mean it. And,
okay. Cool.
And Ryan is terrific in it. The villain in it is really reminiscent of Anton Chigurh in No Country, which
That's a very high compliment.
It was a big inspiration for this film, No Country, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you about the inspiration for it, because this is it seems to follow the structure and the themes of a classic Western very well. So were those films of particular influence to you, Patrick?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've always been a huge fan of Westerns, and you know, it wasn't until I reached a certain age that I really, truly understood what the Western was. You know, like when I was younger, my dad was always trying to make me watch them, and I just wasn't interested. I was more interested in watching Star Wars, but then you get older and you realize Star Wars is, in fact, a Western. And, you know, I think as you get a little bit older and you mature, I think this is why men connect with the Westerns so much, is it's about a moral code, and it's about a sense of justice and what is right and what is wrong. And I guess, you know, I wanted to tell a tale that was an exploration of revenge, redemption, and sacrifice. And kind of like that spin, if one man's revenge can be another man's redemption, that, to me, I'm kind of drawn to that. And, you know, it was kind of, you know, Shane Cooper is the character for Ryan. You know, we said from the outset that this wasn't your classic Western character. Ryan was saying the other day that it was sort of like a prequel to a Clint Eastwood movie. This is he's not the badass hero from the beginning. He's actually the young cop, the city cop that believes in, you know, he has a strong sense of his moral code and what is right and what is wrong. And he also has a strong sense of police procedure about how to do things by the book and do it properly. So, you know, his arc is ultimately through this shitstorm that he has to live through. In this one day, happens to be his first day on duty in this small country town. He learns to grow, and he grows from this experience. And obviously, the city boy becomes a cowboy.
Yeah. And Ryan, is that what really appealed to you? The arc of that character, as Patrick just described it?
I'm a huge fan of the Western genre. As well, and have a huge sort of catalogue of Western titles in my DVD collection. But this was a character that was, you know, I guess set up somewhat to be the hero, yet didn't have the classic sort of hero qualities. He wasn't, as Patrick alluded to, sort of John Wayne or Clint Eastwood, that you felt like no matter what posse was put up against him, he could overcome it. In fact, the very first frame we see this guy, he's forgotten his gun. I mean, it's not. This is not Clint Eastwood. You know, this is a. Having said that, though, he knows his job. He's a great city cop. He's just happened to start work in this country town on the worst day imaginable.
Yeah, and he's very vulnerable, as I think the best heroes are, and it works as a great counterpoint to your villain in the piece. Yeah. Which the villain is almost mythic in a way. But you also, what surprised me about it was that you also give him a lot of colors as well. I mean, his character and his character's motivation deepens as the story moves along also. That must have been an important consideration for you too.
Yeah, exactly. It was, you know, we wanted to sort of, how do you humanize a monster? So he's portrayed as this sort of angel of death that stalks into this town, and he's horribly disfigured, and he doesn't say anything. You know, I said from the outset when I was sitting down to write, I'm like, this guy's not going to say a goddamn word until the last possible frame of the movie. And by him not saying anything, all we can judge are his actions, and his actions are horrific. So, you know, what Shane's character represents is sort of the moral compass in this story, because there's some pretty nasty and dirty characters. You know, old Bill is someone that we can't really empathise with, and nor can we with Jimmy. So it's sort of, I like that idea that slowly, piece by piece, you know, Shane's sort of gathering information and learning new insights about this town and their history, and starts to put a broader picture together of the past and this terrible secret that this town's hiding. And, you know, it was always you know, we had certain moments with Jimmy. It was like, again, like as Shane's gathering that information, I also wanted to sort of, you know, that reversal, we start to learn the truth about Jimmy. You know, if you saved it for some sort of big shock reversal at the end, it would kind of feel a bit kind of Scooby-Doo. Whereas if it was, you know, it was important that it was step by step. So initially, you know, it's really confronting his actions, and then piece by piece as we move through the film, we learn a little bit more and a little bit more, and obviously there's a connection between him and Shane. And, you know, I really like that idea of the baby book name, so because it kind of says everything without saying anything. You just understand suddenly, oh my God, this guy's actually a human being. So that was really important too.
You know, what I liked about it was, obviously you're working in the Western genre. It's a very old, traditional genre, and its beauty is its simplicity, as you expressed before. I mean, it's about good and evil, right and wrong, moral code. But I would think that it would be easy to fall into types with the performances and the writing of the characters. So was that a consideration also for you, Ryan, how to make this character specific, or was it all on the page already?
That was the incredibly impressive thing about the script, was the lack of exposition. That everything, it was, the fat was off the bone. You know, it was just, it was all there. I mean, the amount of stuff that probably found its way to the cutting room floor was few and far between. Purely, I mean, I guess the budget kind of... We
couldn't afford it.
Yeah, it was a very appealing quality.
Yeah. You know, and I understand that you guys shot this in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated in independent films.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to hear both of your takes on this. Obviously, the greatest luxury for a film production would be more time and money. But is it beneficial in any way to not have the opportunity to necessarily second guess yourself?
That's an amazing point, and it's something that, in retrospect, or I guess in nostalgia now, and Patrick and I talk about it, if we would have had more money, more time, we would have made a different film. That much we know. But would we have made a better film? That much I don't know, because I almost see it now as like a beautiful, as like a relationship. If you look at a relationship, it's you fall in love with someone for the perfections that they have, for the things that you see in them. But you stay in love with them because of the imperfections, because of little things that they do, quirks that they have. And that's how I feel now about the film. I fell in love with it because, and I signed on for it because of the Western genre, because of Patrick. But I hold it in such high regard because of the situations that we were in, because of how much we had to band together, because of the good times that it reminds me, and that it was good old-fashioned filmmaking, and that's why I like it. And I think that's why people are responding to it in that same sort of way. You sense that rawness, you sense that ruggedness, but more than anything, you sense the tribulations and then the triumph.
Yeah. Tell me about that reaction that you guys have received for the film, because I'm sure you guys have had screenings and you've played festivals, I'm sure. What has that reaction from the audience been?
I mean, it's been incredible. I remember we went to, when Ryan and I were at Berlin Film Festival for the world premiere, and that was, you know, it was a long way from Omeo where we shot the film. And, when we made the film, we made it without a distributor attached. It was just, we made it with private money, and I mortgaged my house, and it was just against all odds. We were just up there. We said, right, we've got 4 weeks. We've got incredible crew. We've got incredible cast. Let's just tell the best story we can. And ultimately, that was every day. That was my mantra inside my head. Just tell the story. Just tell the story. Just tell the story. Because you're not going to have all the bells and whistles. So it was really exciting, and it was such a relief. Like, obviously, when we played it, because at Berlin,
you're not thinking when you're on set. Oh, this is going to look so good in Berlin.
You're like, I don't even know if we'll get into a festival, let alone if we get a distributor.
Let alone if we'll make the day.
On top of that, I might lose my house and my wife will leave me.
The perils of independent filmmaking.
The reaction from audience has been really astounding. I mean, I just got back from Spain where we had a screening at Sitges, and got a standing ovation, and people were cheering. And I guess I remember watching Unforgiven when I was younger, and I remember literally cheering, literally leaping out of my seat when he walks in and says, "Who's the asshole? Owns this shithole?" and starts blowing away everyone in the room, because it's like that sense of justice. And I think that's what people are drawn to Westerns about, and that's why they worked in this day and age. Why, every man, I know Ryan wanted to be in a Western, and I certainly wanted to make a Western. So there's kind of that manly element of standing up and taking charge and control of a situation that's gone AWOL.
Well, a couple of things interest me here, because, Patrick, you are I know I'm going to miss one of your titles, the director, writer, producer, editor of the film. So when you're so close to it, particularly in the editing phase, is it hard to have perspective on whether or not it's working?
Yeah, it was horrible, and also it was just because of money. I just had to cut, this whole film was like an extremely grueling process, and like Ryan said, it's like one that we look back on now with, I know I'll never have the freedom I had making that movie ever again, and I'll probably look back and say that was the most fun I ever had making a movie, because there was so much at stake and there's so much at risk. I guess, if I was, certainly on my next film, I won't be editing it. I know that for sure. Because it's extremely hard to find a distance, and I know that the first cut I did was 2 hours long, and then I did test screenings, and and the whole process was rushed too, because at the end of the day, I'd had a year off work. I had to go back and start shooting commercials again to get my kids fed. So it was the pressure and strain was coming from it at all angles. But it's kind of like I just got really inspired. I wrote a list of all my favourite filmmakers. George Miller and the Coen brothers and Nolan and Robert Rodriguez and all those. Every single one of them just went out. All of their first films, they wrote, directed, produced, edited, did the coffee, did the standby props. Just do whatever you got to take to get the goddamn film in the can and tell a story and get it in front of a sales agent, and then maybe the sales agent can sell it around the world. That's that's the filmmaker's sort of dream. In some respects, I kind of felt like I was going back to the way I was making films in film school, which is you kind of feel like you're doing everything, and your mum's out there making sandwiches.
Right. Yeah. Well, the gamble paid off, because this is a great film, and I think that everyone's going to love it. And Ryan, you are phenomenal in the movie. Mm-hmm. And you're also phenomenal in True Blood, and my listeners would kill me if I don't ask you about True Blood. Are you shooting the next season currently?
I am not. I go back the 1st of December.
Oh, okay. And tell me about the TV audiences, because you're obviously, the show is very popular. It's one of the most popular shows on TV. Is there a different reaction from fans because they feel like they're more intimate with you or know you personally as opposed to a film work that you do?
Yeah, it's a very perceptive point. It's that. It's also the fact that HBO, and I guess it's probably more Alan's call, the fact that they let character arcs happen over the course of an entire season, or sometimes even 2 seasons. So you feel that much more invested in the characters that are shown to you. So and then they immediately associate me if I get spotted on the street with that character. So it's it's a blessing and a curse, I guess.